Following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
This is Cowboys StoryLine with Nick Eatman.
What is up? Welcome to Cowboys Storyline. It is Tuesday, March 19th. Happy birthday to my daughter, Olivia. I didn't have it written down on what day it was, but I do know that. March 19th, Tuesday, second week or so of free agency. Not much has really changed with the Cowboys, adding a few players here and there of their own guys that they're re-signing. Of course, I think Eric Kendricks is still the biggest signing so far. And that did happen last week. We still had a show. We've had a show in between there. So since the last show, a few departures, obviously. Tyron Smith now headed to the Jets, and Leighton Vander Esch and Michael Gallup were both released. Leighton Vander Esch obviously released failed physical, so he retired officially yesterday. So, but a lot of changes throughout the team, the roster, and it's going to look, I wouldn't say a lot different, but it will definitely look different, as most teams do from year to year. All right, 888-855-2297. That is the number to call. You can text us at 817-290-3298. Let's get going here. Let's get this thing started. We'll go to the phone line first. Jeff in Salt Lake City, Utah. Jeff, what's up?
Hi, Nick. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm first-time caller. Listening to you.
Here we go.
Just wanted to start out. My favorite wrestler, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
All right.
And an old-timer that I haven't heard on the show, but I thought you might remember, 98. I really liked this guy, Patrick Jeffers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked him as a wide receiver. He was I was really sad to see him go as a restricted free agent to Carolina.
That's right.
But I have more of a comment and then a question for you.
Right.
So just as a lifetime Cowboy fan, 5 years ago when the Garrett administration was gone, during the hiring process with Mike McCarthy, I'd be lying to you to say that I was kind of happy with the hire. I was hoping for them to cast a wider net, and I remember that year they had just interviewed McCarthy and Marvin Lewis.
Right.
And they hired him. I kind of was I didn't really enjoy the fact that he admitted to getting the job that he watched all the film from the previous season. But I can't deny that these 3 12-5 seasons that he hasn't played a pivotal role. So we'll give McCarthy his flowers. My question that I kind of wanted to ask you in regard to this, I don't want to use the word sabotage, but with the free agents that have left.
With that word.
And
I can promise you that. Be careful with that one. Not a good word. I've used that before, and it didn't go well. So, personal experience.
Right, exactly. So I just wanted to ask you, with the free agents that we've lost and only bringing in one outside, re-signing Jordan Lewis and all that kind of stuff, with Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff all on one-year contracts, how do you feel? What do you think that they feel in regards to going into this season? Because Mike McCarthy has to know that he has to win and get a little deeper in the playoffs to keep his job. But the way that the free agency is played out and we still have the draft to come, I see at least needing 5 starters and depth pieces. I just think that this team has gotten worse than the previous years. So I just wanted your opinion, Nick, and I've been listening to you since I was a teenager. I really enjoy all your work. Thanks for having me on, and I'll try to call in more often.
All right. Oh, perfect. Thank you for the call, Jeff. Jeff in Salt Lake City, Utah, first-time caller and first caller of the day. That's how you started off. A lot of good stuff there. Did the whole thing. Did the wrestler, did the former Cowboy. Patrick Jeffers caught a touchdown in that Randy Moss game where he had 3 on Thanksgiving. I think Jeffers also scored that day, but nobody remembers that because it was Randy Moss going all over the place. But, yeah, to answer your question or to talk about your comment, this is, I think, really why Jerry kind of meant the all-in statement. I think he feels like this is an all-in moment for him, like already. Not starting in free agency, was starting 2 years ago and last year, getting to this point. It's kind of a make or break year. Maybe a better way to say it, because which is what happens when you're going all in, like in poker. It's like this next card is make or break. Either you get the flush or you don't. That type of stuff. And that's kind of what he's thinking this year. McCarthy, Dak, sort of 1 year deal. It's kind of tricky, but I think we all know if it doesn't work out, this probably could be the last year for him. Same with some of the other players, Zimmer 1 year deal and all that. So that's kind of what this is. And yeah, there is pressure, and you've got to win. That's the NFL. You've got to win. So yeah, it's probably not comfortable. It's a hot seat, if you will, for some of the coaches, and but that's the way it is. That's how the NFL works, and so that's basically what it is. So you've pegged it perfectly, Jeff. I mean, this is the picture. This is what the Cowboys have, and the goal is to go win. And yeah, you looks like they've lost more than they've gained, and they have. They are going to rely on their draft from not only this year, last year, the year before that, maybe even the year before that. You've got some players. I've said it a lot of times that if you keep going 12-5 and picking at the end of the draft, or picking at the end of the round every time, you're not going to get great players that are really going to help you. And so it's hard for those guys. What's wrong with the draft class? Well, because they're having a hard time beating out the guys in front of him, and the guys in front of them are having a hard time beating out guys in front of them. So that's where they are. But there's going to be a lot more opportunities for these young players that have been there, that have kind of sitting around. Sam Williams is one name there. Your linemen, your Hoffmans, your T.J. Bass, those guys, opportunity. Maybe a Nashawn Wright, who hasn't had a ton of time. I mean, these are going to be opportunities for them to shine, and see what they can do. All right, Joe in Stamford, next caller. Joe.
Hey, brother, it's good to talk to you. I haven't called since you had your All-Star show, so I just want to say thanks for putting me on the list there.
Oh, yeah. You're at the top. You're at the top of the list. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been traveling around a little bit, so the last few shows I've just been in spots where I haven't been able to call, but just once again, love the show.
Appreciate it.
Love the show, and, of course, I'll keep calling, brother.
I know you will. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we're along the lines of what we were just discussing as far as what holes have been, made and what could be filled. I'm looking at last year's draft class, and of a lot of the stuff we've lost, there's a lot of guys in those positions. Besides Overshone, who I feel like probably, if he recovers well enough, has a good shot at starting, are there any of the other draft picks that you feel like can satisfactorily fill a role, like even potentially become a starter? We got Awesome Richards, who's a tackle. Got Jalen Brooks, who I think probably was the surprise of the draft.
Yeah.
People like Eric Scott, Fahoko, who didn't, take a snap. Are there any of these guys that you feel like are actually going to be able to contribute next year?
Yeah. What's sad about it is that your first and your second round pick, who you did not mention, they fall right into this category as well. I mean, you got to have those guys. Mozzie, Schoonmaker. I mean, those guys have to step up.
Yeah. Schoonmaker didn't get to a full preseason or off season. I feel like that he's still got a lot of potential to make a big step this next year. As far as Mozzie goes, I'm totally lost on him. I have no idea at all about him.
Well, that's where you hope that Zimmer is gonna really help, and they have some D-line coaches that they've added. I think it's Jeff Zagonia, who's a veteran coach. I mean, he's a veteran player. He played like 17 years, but he actually coached for a long time. So maybe just new voices might help with that. Schoonmaker, I think Schoonmaker is going to be in a better spot because last year it was so wide open at tight end. Who's the starter? I mean, Schultz is gone, so is it Schoonmaker? Is it going to be Ferguson? What about Peyton Hendershot? And then it kind of worked itself out the way it did, and then at the end it was very clear Ferguson's the guy. He's the dude. There's no doubt about that. That might actually help Schoonmaker to me. Get into this year, you're going to be the number 2 guy. Which is a blocker, which is also a guy that can make some catches, at times. but you're going to have a good role. And so I think that might actually help him going into this year. But to name those other ones, the first guy I wrote down was Awesome Richards. I think he'll have an opportunity to do some things. Kind of liked what we saw from him early on. Jalen Brooks, Fajoko would be nice to do something. I was a little surprised that he didn't do that much. Jalen, Eric Scott, Deuce Vaughn, all those guys. I mean, they're all going to have opportunities. And then I think if you go back to the last couple of drafts, same thing. There's guys in that group as well that can make some plays. All right, let's go to Rob in Vegas.
Hey, Nick.
How you doing?
I'm good, but what are they doing? I mean,
nothing.
Nothing. I don't have a problem with who they lost technically. I thought they could have maybe worked something out with Tyron. They finally figured out if you don't practice this guy, he maybe could play. I think I don't know why they let him go.
Did you see the sign? Did you see what he signed for? I mean, that's why. And from what I was told, what they were offering for the Cowboys, what they wanted was more than that. Seriously, which is
I understand,
surprising.
But what do you think? You could go cheap at certain positions, but you don't want to go cheap with a left tackle who's supposed to be protecting your $55, $60 million quarterback. I don't understand that. And now if you're not going to kick Tyler Smith out there, which would probably be the next best thing because I think he could be great at it, who are you going to put there? We don't have anybody on this team right now that you would feel comfortable being the starter at left tackle. So, But my thing is, I don't know why this team looks like they want to blow it up. We were a very good team last year. We weren't 5-12. We were 12-5. It's like Jerry's like, you know what? They want me to pay Dak. They want me to do this. Nope. Okay, let's see what happens. That's it. I had it. And now the fans are finally turning on him, which I think is good. I think it's finally, the fans of. It's like the end of the movie Training Day when Denzel was fighting the cop, and then when he thought his buddies there were gonna, stick up for him, and they basically said, "No, homie, you're on your own." That's kind of like the fans now. It's like we had enough. We always stood by you, but then when you opened your mouth and you said, "We're all in," and you totally went the opposite way. I have never heard the fans in 20, 30 years turn on Jerry like this. And
Wait, Rob. Hold on now. Because last week you called and you were like, I'm fine with what they're doing.
No. I am fine. I'm fine with losing the people, but you have to have a plan to replace them, and the goal is to get better. I don't have a problem losing Pollard or Gallup or Biotic, but you got to bring people in that are better. Rico Dowdle was not better than Tony Pollard.
Rob, the draft is not till April. I mean, like, they
Nick,
can't do it right now.
I don't think we drafted one guy last year that became a starter.
No. But
now we're looking for 4 just on offense.
Yeah.
I mean that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I don't have like I said.
You better do that. Yeah, you better draft 4. I mean, no doubt.
In your business, if the Cowboys said, you know what, Nick, we're moving on from you, they're not bringing in some schlub. They're going to try to bring in somebody who they think is better. And what bothers me is we were there, won the division, 12-5. You got your best players in their prime. Dak is in his prime. Micah, CD, Diggs, and they got to be saying to themselves, "What the hell are we doing?" And I think that's what the fans say.
Okay.
They don't care. Okay. At the end of the day, I root for the Cowboys.
I know.
Go ahead.
Let me switch it on you real quick. Tyron Smith. Are you doing that deal? Are you figuring out that deal? $20 million ish. I mean, it could be up to $20 million.
It wasn't, but see, it's not. That's fake money. It was really $10 million. $10 million.
Okay.
$10 million.
Okay. Do you know the incentives though?
Okay, but incentives to me is if Tyron Smith meets the incentives, we all benefit. So yes, I do $10 million. Where are you going to get a starting left tackle at that good for $10 million? You can't.
Well, it's up to $20 million, and a lot of those incentives are if he plays. So it's not like
exactly,
Pro Bowl.
and he's not. He's probably not.
Okay.
He's probably not going to play 16 games, 17 games. He'll probably play 13, 14. But I think $10 million. We don't have anybody better. Tyler Smith could be better, but then you're weak at guard. So it's where you want to go.
I don't think it was $10 million. Honestly, I think it was going to be more than that. And from what I just said, it sounds like what he signed for the Jets was not what he would have signed for the Cowboys. He wanted more with the Cowboys.
Now they're talking about getting Becton, maybe the guy they just released for Tyron Smith, and bring him here. All I'm saying is, if you're going to move on from players, I'm cool with it, as long as you're getting better, you're not getting worse. And right now, I don't see there's nobody out there left. And you could go into the draft and you could get a running back, no doubt about it. I want them to do that. And you could get maybe the center from Oregon or whatever. Okay, but you're not going to get 4 starters in the draft to start from you day one. It just ain't going to happen.
Okay. It may or may not. All right, Rob, appreciate the call. I'm going to reiterate, like I said, to start the show. I usually don't do it in the middle of the show here, but March 19th. It is Tuesday, March 19th. That is the day right now. That's where they are. So it's you're not going to get better right this second if you're losing players, and that's part of it. You're going backwards in an attempt to go forward. They know that. And they know that they're not going to get a center better than Tyler Biadasz. Not right now. Now, he might develop into something better than him, but you're not going to get a center in the second round or even the first round. Day one, he is better than Biadasz. It's probably not the case. The same at left tackle, the same at a lot of these positions. That's part of it. That's where they are. I just don't understand why people don't understand the salary cap a little bit more. This is a real thing. They don't have the money to do all of these things, to pay all of these people, especially if the market is what it is. And you've seen it. You've seen players that you're fine with losing. You're fine with losing the Biadashes of the world at $10 million and Dorrance at $15, but yet you want to get better for cheaper. That's not the way it works. And so they're going to have to do it a different way. And so I just don't understand. I mean, I get the frustration, but I've never, ever in my life seen an NFL game in March. They don't play in March. Give them a little bit of time to do this. And also, give them credit for the draft. I mean, if you want to go back to last year, that's just short-sighted. Last year, they had a really good roster, and these guys weren't getting an opportunity to play. They didn't beat them out. They didn't beat out these good players on the roster. But now there's going to be more options to do that. Now we're really going to get to see. I don't know if that draft was a bad draft just yet. We're going to find out. We are going to find out. In the last couple years, same thing. But these guys are going to get the chance to play. The time is now. So let's just calm down before we say, nobody's turning on anybody. Nobody's turning on the Cowboys. No one's. No, I don't believe a fan. I certainly won't be calling this show, but I don't believe there's that many fans out there that are just saying, you know what, I'm done. Here's all my Cowboy gear. Give me the Chiefs. Nah. If so, you were never a fan to begin with. All right, Travis, San Antonio.
What's going on?
What's up, man?
So I was hoping I was actually going to get in before Rob, because I wanted to ask Rob and kind of everybody this, because last week you had a call with, I think his name was Zach.
Yeah.
And I get that. I heard Stephen Jones' comments last week saying, our all-in is keeping the core. I think maybe some of the frustration, from Rob this week and from other fans is like, it's fine if you say we're going to keep the core together, but the problem is the core by itself hasn't been good enough over the last 15 years. I'm not even going to say 30 because that's kind of ridiculous. But since they've been a good drafting team, they haven't. Yeah. The core hasn't been good enough. And then, I know the cap is real, Nick. I understand. But at the same time, I do think that, the perception of it, the team pushing, how big of a deal this is, they're making it almost too big of a deal, because the Rams had $79.9 million in dead cap last season. And by my mark, they had a more competitive game and nearly got past the Lions in the same round that we did. So I'm not saying it's not real, but it's also, we can't also act like it's this complete death sentence for 5 years. It's 1 year of dead cap.
Yeah.
And now this year they have $700,000 on the cap for dead cap. So it's not like you can still be competitive even having that dead cap. So I think that's partly too where I'm not saying you do it all the time. I'm not saying it's a yearly thing, but I think that sometimes where it's like, I mean, we can't go all in one time and have a year of dead cap and then be able to rebound the next year. I don't think that's completely like unrealistic to ask from a team when the strategy they've had hasn't worked of just keeping the core together. And then the other thing, and I'll get off, is it's not this is not coming. I know you got a couple calls last week, about the whole Micah thing and him. He needs to shut up. I'm not coming from an emotional place as far as this goes, but I'm more of an outside the box guy. And the question I want to ask all the fans and you is, do you think this team is a good drafting team?
Yep.
Generally speaking.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
They think they're a good drafting team, right?
Yes. Probably.
Okay. Right. And I'm not saying you do this with Micah. I'm not saying with certain players, but is Deron Bland's value right now going to be any higher than it is in his entire career?
You're obviously thinking no, so
I would say no, just because of the year he had. And it's not Deron needs to be quiet. I'm just saying if you're going to go with this path and being a drafting team, then we're not going to be big players in free agency. I'm totally fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
But let's start turning. We want more. You just said we want more darts at the dartboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's start taking a position where we may have a Deron Bland. Can we turn Deron Bland around for a higher pick, or maybe 2 picks? It's possible. That is not crazy. And I know people want to be like, oh, that's insane. You can't think of doing that and blah, blah, blah. But it also helps you manage the cap because you're not paying, like, receiver is deep every year. I know this is outlandish, but if you didn't want to pay CeeDee Lamb in a world where we lived in that world, I think you can safely say you can get a first-round pick and maybe a third-round pick for CeeDee Lamb, something like that. I think you can definitely get a first. You can draft another receiver. If this is the path you want to go down of being a cheaper team, I don't think it's when all these fans freak out and say, that's crazy. Why would you want to trade a guy? Because I get more darts at the dartboard. If we're a good drafting team, don't you trust them to find good players?
Yeah.
So I don't understand why it's so crazy, I guess.
Well, I
just want to get your thoughts on it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who's saying crazy or whatever. I don't think it's crazy, but
the fans have overreacted. Like Micah, I wouldn't trade, but like if you mention CeeDee Lamb, I guarantee you someone will call in and say that's crazy.
Yeah, I might be getting the number. I might be the one right there making the first call. Here's why on that. Thanks for the call, and I like, again, Travis, appreciate that. I like thinking outside the box a little bit, or at least just something that's not always conventional. I'm never just one way or another. That's why I wish. I don't really love what the Cowboys, what their approach is, because it doesn't change. I think there are years where you have to say 3 or 4 years where you're like, we're just going draft here. We're not going to be really big in free agency. Every now and again, it's okay to if you have the money to do that and go through free agency. And so I would never be a one way or another thing. So what you're saying, Travis, is you think maybe if they're just going to rely on the draft, then let's trade these guys maybe when the value is high. You would have done that maybe with Diggs last year, I guess, or CD this year, or maybe Deron Bland or whatever. I'm kind of the other way. I'm kind of hit or miss a little bit. I'm more in the middle here. You got CeeDee Lamb landed in your lap in 2020. I mean, you got lucky to have him. He was sitting there at 17. You loved him. You couldn't believe he was there. You've ignored some other needs and said, we're taking this guy. Now he's your franchise receiver, going to break just about every record there ever was for the Cowboys, every receiver. So I'm keeping him. Deron Bland, 5th-round pick. I mean, definitely keeping him right now. I mean, think about it. He's got 1 year, he had 5 picks, didn't even start. Next year, he has 9 picks, 5 interceptions for touchdowns. Like, don't have to do anything this year. Next year, you're going to have to figure something out. But, let's see when he stops leading the team with interceptions. I mean, I'm not a rob Peter to pay Paul type thing. You still open up another situation, and you're not always going to hit. I mean, look at last year's draft. Should be a good example that, yeah, they are a good drafting team. Sometimes they didn't always hit. So I'm not just going to say I'm going to throw back the ace here and I expect to get another ace. That's not the way it works. CD, Bland, no. So I'm going to sign some. To me, it's a balance. That's the way I would do it, and that's the way the Cowboys are trying to do it. But I would lean a little bit more on free agency on years when you have the money. This doesn't seem to be one of those years. All right, Anthony in Miami.
Nick the Quick, what's up, buddy?
What's up, man?
Hey, man, number one, I did not say last time I called that thanks for my second team All-Pro on the All-Story.
Yeah.
I really, you know how we met, and, I've told you I was listening to you along, and I just had a vibe with you. I got the guys on hanging. I'm going to call Nick. Nick's always on. So I like Nick. So I'm going to call you. So thank, the people that helped you, that have an idea, Derek Bloom and the Joneses for letting you do it, and your great producer back there. Bean, man, I really appreciate that. I can say something, meaningful on the show. Make you laugh, get everybody sparked up. As for the Cowboys, I'm trying to understand, and I'm understanding this salary cap thing, proration thing, and how this thing works out. My biggest take from that is you have a good team. We all know that. And every year you're going to turn over, you're going to lose guys, right?
You're getting close, Anthony. Anthony, you're getting close to being cut off. Your phone is struggling. You're a second team all storyline. Your phone is not. Your phone is not. I don't know if it's a connection issue or not. Let's try again though. Keep going. Let's see if we can get through this one.
I think it's the house. I'm gonna take it. Can you hear me now?
Let's try it. Go for it.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate that on all storyline stuff. But as far as the Cowboys, you had some pretty good years. 12-5, 12-5, 12-5. You came up short, and that's the problem. That's what I think. With guys getting better and all pro and this and that, you got to pay these guys. And then your glue guys, they get a little bit better, and you got to go with that little, instead of the $30 million and 40 and 50 that the other guys make, you got to go with that 7, 8, and 9, and you're going to lose guys. And you hope to get better guys. But in the end, no matter what you build, no matter how you do it through free agency, you have to win. The guys came up short. We had a great team. We had everything in place, but we came up short. And we didn't, the 2 years before with San Fran, we were in there. But it was so embarrassing and it hurt so much last year that nobody kind of showed up. That's why I think everybody's kind of going crazy. And I appreciate Jones for what they're doing. They're taking their time. They haven't really done Dak yet. He's my favorite player, so it hurts me. But if he has to go, he has to go if he's not getting the job done. So that's basically what I had to say, man. Right. Michael Parsons is an anomaly to the guys that said trade him. He's an anomaly, bro. He's not getting traded. And CD Lamb, those two are going to get paid. Now, who else is going to get paid, I don't know. But those two are going to get paid. So thanks, Nick, man.
All
Sorry,
right.
The new house, man. The new house, and it's just crazy over here with the hurt, man.
Well, that's okay. I appreciate whatever you did, stepped outside or did something. It seemed to work. So that was all good. Thank you for the call. Thank you for the passion, Anthony, as always. I don't have a lot of good responses there for you. And I'm not sure, who's going to get paid next either on how that's going to work. You said if Dak's not getting the job done, what's the job? That's the thing. That's where it is with him is what's the job? Is it winning the Super Bowl? No, he hasn't gotten the job done, and neither has any other quarterback played here in the last, 3 decades really. But, is the job to be one of the best and to give yourself an opportunity and play well in the big moments? For the most part, he's done that. They haven't gotten the job done in the playoffs. We all know that. And it starts with Dak. But do you want to start over and get someone else? That's the question. I don't think the Cowboys are at that point right now where they want to do that. So, all right, let's go to Michael. He's in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Michael.
Second team?
That's right.
Yeah.
You all right with that? You good with that?
I was thrilled with that when I heard it. I was about right in the middle. I was about halfway.
Yeah. Yeah, you were. Yep. It's good to hear from people, even that, like the first time. Again, if anyone's calling for the first time or listening for the first time, we did an all StoryLine team based off of last season, which was the first year of this show, and I kind of wanted to give back to and recognize some of our callers that have called the most and have really given the most contributions to the show. So we did an honorable mention, we did a third team, second team, first team. So Michael, yeah, you were our second team, right?
Second team.
Yeah, a lot of calls. And really carried Kentucky. I mean, you're probably 97% of all the calls that came from Kentucky.
Yeah. I heard I think I heard of Louisville or Lexington, but not much.
Not much. Unbelievable. I will say this. It was, even with you on the line here. I looked this up. Texas by far had the most calls from Texas. It was like 260. And then second was Florida. There is a 5-way tie for third place, I guess, if you will, for the next 5 states, all at 47 calls. I was going to tell Chris this. 47 calls, a 5-way tie on the states. Kentucky's not one of them because you would have had to call almost every time. But I thought it was kind of interesting that the big jumble there of states. So we're all over the country. I love it. All right, sorry, Michael. Go ahead. What you got?
All right. There's a lot of Cowboys fans in Kentucky.
Are there?
But yeah. Bowling Green, you can see Cowboys fans all over the place. It's probably I went to the Titans game last year, Cowboys Titans, and when the game was over and we went down onto Broadway, there was just as many Cowboys fans on Broadway as there were Titans. But I don't agree with some of the callers.
We played the Titans last year? I'm sorry, I can't remember. 2 years ago? 2 seasons?
No, last year. It was.
I don't remember that game. Anyways.
I think it was near the end. We won. But.
It was 2 seasons ago, just letting you know. 2 seasons ago.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Oh,
time flies.
Time flies. Well, I went to that game. No, I don't agree with some of the callers. I think in the past, we've kept big names too long. I think 7-7 is just, I think it's a good move because, you pay him that kind of money and maybe he plays 15, 16 games. Maybe he plays 5. Who knows? I'm glad they were, didn't overpay and everything, pay $20 million or something. They'll do something. But one thing I'm glad to see Greg Ellis as a coach because he went to my high school about 5 years after I did in Lizard Lick, North Carolina, East Wake High School. That's where I'm originally from. And when I went to the Cowboys Stadium, back the Irving one, and took the tour and took pictures in the locker room. And years later, I looked at the pictures, and I knew I took a picture of Greg Ellis' locker. And right beside Greg Ellis was Tony Romo. At the time, I had no idea who Tony Romo was because, it was his first few years. And later on, I looked back and I was like, well, that's pretty cool. I got a picture of Tony Romo's locker right next to Greg Ellis. But no, I just think it's not too bad letting 7-7 go. I think Dak, he needs to stay. I mean, I think he's the best option for the Cowboys, and I'm just looking forward to this coming season. I can't believe it was 2 years ago. I thought it was last year.
No, it was 2 years ago, and the quarterback was Josh Dobbs.
Yep.
He played quarterback for that game, and so he wasn't that good in that game, and so he thought, surely he'll never beat the Cowboys in any game he plays. He's not good enough to win.
He did pretty good. I mean, it wasn't a runaway.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
There were fans. There were Titan fans. I don't remember what number Dobbs was, but they had old Titans jerseys with a different name on it and had duct tape over the name and put Dobbs.
Nice. I like that place. I like Tennessee. It's good.
Well,
it's good.
Rather getting a new one.
Yeah. So, all right. Okay, man. Thanks for the call, Michael. Appreciate that.
This is first time I was able to call since I made second team, so I just thought I'd give you a shout.
I appreciate it. All right. Well, you're on season 2 now. This is season 2.
Yep.
And you're in the books now. So,
all right, man.
All right. Also in the books for the first time ever will be Devin.
Old Titans
in Minnesota. Devin, let's turn down the computer, I guess, if that's what you're listening to. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What's up, man?
Not much. Just want to say thanks for taking the call. I'm a third-generation Cowboys fan. Grew up watching, the boys win three Super Bowls in the 90s.
Okay.
Watching with my dad. And anyway, just a couple comments. I
First
understand
time caller,
the frustration.
Right? First time caller?
Yep, first time. Absolutely.
Chris? All right. All right, Deb, what you got?
Just understand the frustration of fans. I think if you look at the Packers' loss in the playoffs this year, the game was basically over by halftime. And in the past couple of years, losing to the Niners. I understand the cap issues, but when you see teams like the Chargers, who are $24 million over the cap, and then they make some signings, and on like the last day before they have to be under, they let go of a few big names, and they're under, and it's just wondering like what's going on with that. To me, it's all about Dak. I think Dak is a great regular season quarterback. I do not think he's a great postseason quarterback unless he has a stifling defense or an incredibly good running game. But how do you get that without the cap space? And when you're paying him $60 million, honestly, I'm kind of happy with where everything is. And if everything goes down the tubes this year and it sucks, I hope Jerry blows it up. He gets rid of Dak. I'd like McCarthy to stay, 3 years at 12-5. I think McCarthy knows how to win. But honestly, when it comes to the postseason, I just don't think Dak sees the field the same. I think he kind of tenses up, and he just, when you go back a couple years ago when he had Cooper and CD, I think that was CD's rookie year. CD didn't have a single catch. It was 10 catches to Cooper. The next year, playing the Niners again, there is, after the big, long, 80-yard pass to get him away from the goal line, there was another pass, the next pass. There was a guy, a Cowboy, running up the seam, wide open for a touchdown, and they needed it, and he forced the ball to CD, and it didn't happen. So I don't think he sees the field well when it comes to the postseason. So unless he has a stifling defense and or an incredibly good running game, I just don't think we'll win a Super Bowl with Dak, and I'm ready for him to go.
All right. Okay. Well, Devin, I don't think Dak is going to go. I appreciate the call. I mean, that's and you're not the only one that thinks that way. I mean, there's people that don't ever, they don't ever see it. If they've never seen it before, then it's not going to happen. So in 8 years, if Dak hasn't led them to a Super Bowl, then he never will. I mean, that's the mentality. I don't see that way. I'm not that way. I mean, I grew up, and I'm sure there's people in Boston that lived their whole life and never saw the Red Sox win the World Series, or same in Chicago, with the Cubs. I'm just giving examples. I mean, you don't ever see it until you see it. And so I don't necessarily believe that. Now, you can argue with me on that and say the reason why you haven't seen it is because he isn't good enough. And that's fine. I mean, it's one thing to talk about a player, another thing to talk about like a generation of decades of a franchise. I understand it's different, but I don't necessarily think, if I go back to it, I don't think that Dak is the reason why they don't win it. I agree that he needs help, though. He needs help, and that's what makes these contracts very tough, is because they get the credit. The quarterbacks get the credit for the success, but yet he needs more guys around him, and he needs a running game. Without a doubt, he needs a running game. The way that teams are built, they have to run the football, and they have to run it in the playoffs, and you definitely have to stop it in the playoffs. So I thought they got by with winning some games in the regular season that way, but it does change a little bit when you get into the postseason. Things kind of tighten up a little bit, and you've got to be able to run it when they know you're going to run it, and stop the run when you know they're going to run it. And they didn't do that. And so hopefully that's the plan moving forward to kind of change that. Now, it is a little ironic that you don't really have a running back on the roster until you re-signed Rico Dowdle yesterday. But I mean, I don't think he's going to be the answer. I think he might help compete, but I mean, I don't think he's your answer there at running back. But I think it's more than just the back. I think it's the actual philosophy, the blocking scheme, and the guys that they have up front. They got to be able to fix that. All right, who is next here? Mike? Is it Mike in New Mexico? Mike?
Yes, sir.
What's up,
How's
man?
it going?
Good. How are you?
How you doing? Good, good. So a couple things. I'm a first-time caller.
Nice.
Just a little frustrated.
Okay.
And I'm not even frustrated with the Cowboys. I'm frustrated with some fans right now. I tell my son all the time, when we do our job, when the front office does their job as a front office, they draft well, they have to save some money to pay some people. I don't believe that we just throw money at 7-year pros that are either hit or miss. We never know. Those are all a 50-50 gamble. I've seen it done before. I'm a fan of drafting. I'm a fan of building a team. I agree that we need to address the run game. I agree that we need to address the blocking scheme. I think that has more to do with us not having success more than just, hey, let's throw Derrick Henry at it. Like, Derrick Henry, yes, with him being great, yes, he's a big name. However, he's 28 years old or something like that, or 30 years old. I don't believe that's the answer. I believe we need to draft well this year like we've done in the past. That's where we've always answered our question at running back, has always been drafting a player. Just believe. I know everybody's upset, but relax. We're going to be fine. We're going to draft a running back. We're probably going to pick up Connor Williams at center to help us out, something like that. We're going to be fine. We need to address left tackle. I think we need to bring Tyron back. But as far as throwing millions of dollars at a running back, I don't believe that's the answer. Let's get Dak a contract because that's the foundation, and we go from there. We have to get Dak, CD, and Micah done, and that's where the money's going to go to. That's what I believe.
All right. Well, I agree. I agree with the drafting part. I'm not sure if what he said about Tyron sounded like he said maybe bring him back. Maybe I didn't hear that correctly. Tyron has
said Connor Williams.
I thought I heard him say Tyron though too. Maybe not. Did he say? I heard the Connor Williams part. I heard that, and he's injured, and he would be an option at center. And I don't know if that's going to happen. I would be surprised if they went back that route again. I thought I heard him say Tyron. Maybe he didn't. Either way, it's a good time to just reiterate that Tyron Smith has agreed to a deal with the Jets. He's gone, and he'll finish his. I don't know if he'll finish his career with the Jets, but he'll definitely go to the AFC. I'm a little surprised by that move, honestly. I was just surprised to see him somewhere else. I mean, it's the last time the Cowboys started a season without Tyron Smith, Wade Phillips was the head coach. I mean, that's how far it goes back to 2010. It's the last time without Tyron. So what a career he's had already, and what a career he's had with the Cowboys. And I think he'll be a Hall of Famer at some point in his career. This looks like a Larry Allen type move. Larry finished his career with the 49ers. So, and I think he made the Pro Bowl. Still had enough in the tank there. But I agree that the draft is going to have to be where it's at. And with Mike, with the caller from New Mexico, first time caller, I definitely agree that that has to be the focus. Well, I mean, it's got to be that, right? It's not going to be free agency. I mean, they don't have the money to do anything really in free agency. They'll do maybe a couple more moves here and there, but at this point, you're not going to get guys you just feel comfortable with starting. So they're going to have to draft guys to go start, and they're going to have to get some players on this roster that they're going to have to be starters. You could go through the entire list and say, all right, we need you to step up now and be the guy. Sam Williams is one of those for sure. Sam Williams is a guy that has to be a Dorrance Armstrong. So And there's several more like that. T.J. Bass or Hoffman might be another one that way as well. Matt Waletzko, at tackle. I mean, somebody like that, if he's had some shoulder injuries. If he can ever get healthy, if that ever can happen, then he has an opportunity to do some things. They like what they see with him. He just gets hurt. And so it's those shoulders. And I don't know if that's ever going to get better. But if so, he's got the frame, he's got the size, he's smart. I mean, he could be one of those guys. You just have to, it has to, come together health-wise for him. All right, who is next? We got Irwin in Denver.
Hey, Nick, what's going on?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on a couple of things with you, get your take on it. I've been kind of listening a little bit about people calling in about Dak Prescott, and I'm not really a Prescott hater or anything like that. He's one of those kind of quarterbacks that, he does great during the regular season and then kind of like breaks your heart in the playoffs, And I will say this, though. Everybody's excited about him until, those things happen. And then it seems like, people start turning on him. But I guess that just comes with the game, with, how it goes.
Right.
But one of the things that I'm kind of looking forward to, actually, is I want to see Trey Lance in the preseason. I want to see if they really let him go out there and compete and play, because it kind of reminds me of the same situation when Tony Romo was a rookie and he kind of balled out during the preseason.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, he kind of took Bledsoe's place, didn't he?
A little. Yes, he took his place as a starter. 100% he did in the middle of the year, but he got more reps in the preseason. Bledsoe was surprised by that. Parcells he didn't need to see Bledsoe in the preseason. He wanted to see Romo, and that might be the case. That's definitely going to be the case with Dak. It was a different time too. Dak's not going to play. It might be the case with Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush is taking over the QB2. You mean for Cooper Rush?
Yes, but what I'm saying is he might not take over as the backup quarterback, but he might get more reps in the preseason so they can figure that out. I think they would prefer him to be the backup. He's going to be making a lot of money here. That's backup money. They want him to be the backup, and probably not have Rush on the team if they're trying to save money. Ideal is you give up a fourth-round pick last year for a guy, you expect him to be a backup, especially if he's started games and he's been drafted in the first round. If he can't be a backup quarterback, I don't know if he's got much potential at all. So I think it's time for him to show that he can be a backup, Trey Lance.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I just hope that, because you know what, Trey Lance, he has to be pretty good. Considering, they drafted him number 4 in the first round, but a lot of people saw a lot in him, and for the 49ers to just kind of give up on him after 4 games, and plus he was a little bit hurt, so it was just kind of strange to me.
Yeah, you can look at it either way. You can look at it and say, well, the 49ers drafted him high. You could also say the 49ers cut him or traded him, so gave up on him. A coaching staff that has a lot of people have, a lot of respect for them. So maybe they saw what he isn't. I don't know. But I think it's, the Cowboys feel like it's worth a 4th-round pick to try. Junior.
Yeah.
He played as much as your last year's 4th-round pick, Junior Fehoko. They played the exact number of games. So, 4th-round pick, sometimes it's worth it because you're not always going to get a lot of value out of that. Sometimes you get a franchise quarterback in Dak Prescott. Sometimes you get Charles Tapper. You don't know about the 4th round.
Hey, Nick, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you. Appreciate that. First time. No, I'm sorry. That was Irwin in Denver, not a first-time caller. But Daniel in Longview is a first-time caller. Daniel.
Hey, Nick. How's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm at work, so I'm glad I got to get through running a pest control business out here.
Oh, nice. Hit it, Chris.
There we go. All right, man. Hey, I'm a massive Dak fan to the point I cried when he got hurt a few years ago.
I think we all did, man. That was as bad as
that was
tough.
Yeah, it was brutal. it does at some point get hard to defend him, but I still think he's what's best for this team. I think getting rid of him is crazy to me, regardless of the money, because it is hard to find a quarterback. I think people forget about, days like Clint Sterner and things like that. But my question for you would be, I know they just added the 2 void years onto the back end of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
In the event that, for whatever reason, they just don't get him re-signed, because I think we've all been in situations where our feelings get hurt, and we're like, hey, if you don't want me, I'll go to somebody who does. Do they just go complete rebuild? Maybe.
Yeah.
I know we've been hard on Micah, but I mean, do you just not re-sign him, try to rebuild, maybe keep CD and see what you can get for Micah and rebuild from there?
Well, let me just, before I answer that, let me also throw in what that minor restructure is, and I say minor relative to the cap. Not that $4 million is minor to anything, but
correct.
But the key part of that whole deal was the fact that they added those 2 voidable years that you mentioned, and he had to agree to that, and he did. This move opens the door even wider for them to re-sign him long-term. And I think if there was any question whether or not that's going to happen, it was kind of, solidified with this recent move. I think they are going to sign him long-term. They didn't create $4 million on their cap because they needed to go sign a running back or whatever. That's not what this was about. What this was about was giving them an opportunity to sign him long-term. So to answer your question, I think they are going to sign him to an extension. I'm not even going to entertain that thought about, well, how do they rebuild? I think that they believe that he's the guy, and what he showed last year, the whole body of work. He was number 2 in the NFL and for MVP. And if you want to say that doesn't matter, fine. Well, maybe it doesn't. The guy who won it didn't do anything either, in the playoffs. So it's all, it happens. But it's all about the body of work, what they've done, and him progressing as a quarterback. And I think they think he did that to the point where they don't want to see him. The worst thing in the world that could happen, football-wise, to Jerry Jones is to watch Dak Prescott hold that trophy up with another team. It was bad enough with a DeMarcus Ware. Can you imagine Dak Prescott? And if he thinks it's possible with another team, then he feels like it's possible with this team. So I don't think he's going to let – I say all that to say I don't think he's going to let go of the quarterback. And I apologize if I cut you off, Daniel. If you have another question, go for it.
No, hey, man, that's great. That's what I want to hear. Like I say, I love Dak personally. Like I say, there's times where it's hard to defend it, but, man, the whole team didn't show up against Green Bay, so it's not just him.
Right.
I would love to see them keeping, but I know you got other callers and people trying to get through. I must have called 20-something times last week, so
okay.
Thanks for taking my call. Man, I've been listening since before you went to training camp, so
nice.
Keep doing what you're doing, and I'm coming for that all storyline team.
You're going for it. All right, Daniel. I appreciate that. I like it. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I think we struck a nerve a little bit with some, and I'm not saying with Daniel, but just, it's kind of like, I'll call a little bit here and there.
You got to set a goal for yourself early on in the season.
Right. And I think the all storyline team kind of caught people by surprise. Like, oh, wait.
There's a prize at the end of
there's
this.
a prize? Yeah, we're playing for something, I mean, it's different when you're just out there, if you're out there shooting hoops, outside in the yard, and it's like, well, whoever wins this game of horse, $100, you're like, hold up, just a second here. Here we go, Or if you're playing cornhole or something like that,
we're talking
silly game. Yeah.
It's not a silly game.
It's not. That's not. It's silly. It's silly when you're beating Chris like 10-4 and he's getting mad, and next thing you know, with like 3 throws, you lost 22-10. You're like, what just happened? You're like, yeah. I've played Chris in cornhole, and he's as good as there is. So if there's any kind of cornhole league or whatever, I'm taking Chris. If he wants me on his team, he probably doesn't.
We could do it.
All right. We got more callers here? Yes, we do. Dylan in Northport, Florida, who is on the All Storyline team. Dylan.
Hey, man. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Just tuning in. I haven't been listening, but I'll have to listen back. So hopefully I'm not repeating anything anybody else has said. But speaking of all StoryLine, my wife actually, I was so proud. I told her, I got on the team and all that, and she actually ordered me a little like trophy thing with my name on it and the Cowboys all StoryLine and the star and all that. So when that comes in, I'll take a picture and send it to you on Twitter.
It's a great idea. Everybody who's listening, everybody who's listening that made it, tell your wives or girlfriends or whatever to get you a trophy and do that. Yeah, and then we don't have to do anything. I'm just kidding. I'm thinking, no. We're going to do some T-shirts. I promise you that. And if my boss won't pay for it, Chris Beam will pay for it. He already told me. But, yeah. No, we're going to do it for sure. But that's awesome, though. I don't know if it's going to be as cool as a trophy. Your wife's cool for that. Get her something for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No comment. I'll give her something.
Okay, Dylan. Come on now.
I know, man. You set me up.
No, I didn't. I didn't set you up. You went there. Go for it. Let's go.
Talking Cowboys here. I like what the Cowboys do as far as their strategy with the draft. I love that they treat their picks as gold because that's how you build a roster, in my opinion. You can stack talent on talent because everybody's so cheap that you're getting out of the draft. We're seeing now we're going to pay some guys here coming up soon with CD and Micah, so we're going to be in a bit of a hole there, a bit of a pickle, but I like that they typically keep their draft picks. Something I would like to see them do better, and I guess now specific to this season, they've restructured so many deals in the past. It's like credit card spend right now. It's catching up to them, and they're deciding to go ahead and pay that bill instead of pushing it down the road. So, I mean, that is what it is. But I would have liked to have seen them, I hate to say all in because, that's what Jerry said, but sign a big guy, maybe do a couple of restructures and sign somebody like a DJ Reader. He went to a team for $13 million a year for 2 years, which was way less than what he was anticipated to make elsewhere. So I think that would have been a big name at defensive tackle that could have help put them over the top after 3 12-5 seasons. That just screams to me after 3 12-5 to be like, wow, like we're on the fringe. This window's not going to last forever. Let's make a move. And again, I know they're strapped for cash this season, but I would have loved to have seen them figure something out like that and just add one or two names, not trade picks for anybody, but in free agency, just do a couple restructures and maybe sign a big guy like that to help them get them over the top. But I want to know what your philosophy is on like what would you do differently if you were the Cowboys as far as like drafting versus free agency versus trades.
Yeah, I thanks for the call, Dylan, as always, and good luck with the trophy there. That's pretty cool that you got that. I said this a little bit earlier in the show that my philosophy would be not. This sounds bad, but I think my philosophy is not to have one, not to have a philosophy all the time that's set in stone. I think you have to build for the draft because if you draft well enough, that should be where it starts. I mean, Deron Bland's a perfect example of that. Good player in the 5th round. They stole one in the 5th round last year. I mean, he led the team in picks. He's going into the next year as the 3rd corner. And then next thing you know, he's an all-pro that's sitting there as the defensive player of the year finalist. And I don't think he's making $1 million. I don't think his base salary is as a 5th round pick. Now, he might get a little bit more money because NFLPA has like an incentive program for guys that play really well and exceed expectations and all that. But I mean, his salary's low, and it still will be. So you want to build through the draft. But my philosophy I would alter it. At times I would look at, and I agree with you. This team right here, yeah, you could use another player. I just really don't think they had the money. They just don't have the money, and it was in a much more dire situation. And it's not going to get better before it's definitely going to get worse before it's better. Talking about the contract. So the best way to offset that is to draft well and hope that you've already drafted well. Like I said, I keep mentioning these names. There are some players out there that they drafted that haven't really gotten a lot of playing time. They haven't been better than the guys ahead of them, but now it's kind of starting to cycle their way. They've been here 2 or 3 years. It's time for them to step up. And I've named a few. I'll throw some more. I mean, Damone Clark. It's time. I mean, he's started, but he needs to play better. Wanye Thomas, and Marquise Bell, they played some. I think they need to play more at their position. And Deshaun Wright's another one that I mentioned. A Schoonmaker, maybe Peyton Hendershot as well. Jalen Brooks, Jalen Tolbert. That's one. That's a big one. Jalen Tolbert, 3rd round pick, gave you a mulligan the first year. Second year, you did a little bit more. Try to maybe keep him off special teams. Don't let him play corner out there where the fake punts will happen. But let him play receiver. That's what he's going to do. Michael Gallup's no longer on the team, and he should be that guy. 3rd round pick. That should be you. So it's time to open the door for those guys to kind of step up. All right, we got David in Fort Worth.
Hey, Nick, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Good, brother. Good. Hey, I just wanted to quickly touch on the Dak thing that everybody's kind of talking about, and then maybe get your opinion on this, because maybe I'm just tripping, but I feel like Romo was at his best, the 2012, 13, 14 season, around the times, obviously there's, different things going on, but certainly the 2014 season. And I feel like that was after the Cowboys had drafted phenomenal offensive line for him. They established the run game with DeMarco Murray. And I want to say that Tony Romo is my favorite Dallas Cowboy of all time. He is it's not even close, to be honest, in my opinion. And but I still will recognize that even he benefited greatly from a great offensive line and a great run game. And when people say that Dak has always let them down in the playoffs, I'd argue that the entire team has. When you think about 2018 against the Rams, and it was 250-something rushing yards against us, and the defense just was nowhere to be seen. It's just every time I feel like it's not just Dak, and it certainly wasn't always just Romo in the playoffs, but unfortunately they always got the blame. And I recognize the duality between the two, and I also feel like Dak's getting unfair criticism the way that Romo did. I just wanted to throw that out there. Sorry, a little out of breath. Been a while since I called in, man. But I do want to say I appreciate the mention on the All-Storyline team.
Yeah.
I got, the third team All-Storyline. I plan on getting better next time. I do appreciate you recognizing that obviously it was a baby. I also want to mention that I have a 3-year-old as well. So that's it wasn't just the baby. I have a 3-year-old as well, and he got a super progression. Everything happened. And it feels a little weird saying this now, but I was telling my wife, I was like, hopefully I make it. Hopefully they recognize that I'm like the Tyron Smith, which feels weird because he's not here anymore, but I'm like the Tyron Smith. I'm not always there, but whenever I'm there, I shine. You know what I mean? So I appreciate the recognition, man, and I hope you have a great day. Again, I'm going to continue to try to call in. I'm always listening, man. I appreciate what you and Chris do and all the fans, you know what I mean? So I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Yeah. I have a 3-year-old myself, and I can't imagine if there was another baby there in the house. But yeah, good luck to you on that. Appreciate the calls and the tweets. The text lines, stuff that you've done, David. So you're good stuff. As for the Romo Dak part, they're very similar in their career, except for kind of when they started playing. As far as first year for Dak, and then Romo kind of waited a little bit. But the thing with Tony is you're right. I think once he really figured it out, he figured out how to throw it, how to kind of torque his body a certain way, how to make certain plays, how to read coverages, understood what was going on. As soon as it seemed like he really figured it out, and once he did, his body said, all right, that's enough. And it's too bad that they didn't kind of, correlate the same, if you will, at the same time. Not that he didn't have it figured out when he was playing. He was a great quarterback. But, I really think he was at the top of his game mentally. And I feel like Drew Brees was kind of the same way. Once he really kind of got – and he was able to play a few more years. Romo didn't get that opportunity, and that's kind of a shame. But it did allow Dak to kind of do his thing. And so I think what you're asking is if Dak can kind of – looks like he's figuring some things out. He led the league in interceptions 2 years ago and led the league in touchdowns last year. But he's got to figure it out in the playoffs. We know that for sure. So good stuff there, David. All right, Zach in Atlanta. Zach.
Hey, Nick. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Been a while. Haven't called probably since the last week of the regular season. But, I listen every day, and just appreciate you continuing on for the fans and for Cowboys Nation. But I haven't been listening to the show yet today, so I'm jumping in fresh. But I want to share a few thoughts. One, obviously, LVE retiring. We're going to miss him and feel for him. Wish him the best in his next journey, whatever that is. And losing Tyron Smith is a big one too. And I'm 30 and I haven't seen a championship in my adult life, and so just hurts, man. Hurts to see some of these really good players depart and not be able to secure a ring or even an NFC championship in their time with the Cowboys. And so, maybe Tyron can make it happen with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. We'll see. But that's asking for a lot too. But I just have a lot of great players over the years I've loved, and just wish it would have been a little different for their story in Dallas. But can't ask for much more than the All-Pro career for Tyron and LVE and all that. But one thought I have, especially on the idea of Tyron leaving, there's all this talk about drafting tackle and O-line in the draft, which I think we need to do. But there's also, man, we draft really well, and I think we have some guys on the team who we need to plug and play. I mean, I really like TJ Bass. There was all this talk about Austin Richards and, maybe seeing what we have in him. But I don't know. I just feel like there's all this talk about us being able to draft really well, which I believe and I see. And I don't know. I'd like to see us continue to develop some of these guys and give them a chance.
Yep.
I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
Well, thanks for the call, Zach. And I think you might have just missed a couple minutes before that because I agree. 100%. I think that I named some of those guys. It's time to see, how they've been drafting. I've always said it takes about 3 or 4 years to really see what your draft class looks like. Let's let them go through all of their contracts. And, sometimes, I'll never forget the 2008 draft after the first year. I thought that was going to be one of the best drafts ever. 2008. You had Felix Jones and Martellus Bennett, and you had Choice and Scandrick, Mike Jenkins. Those guys after 1 or 2 years, that draft was going to be a great draft, and it turned out to just be okay. Scandrick was the best player of that draft. I think you can argue that. Martellus Bennett had a good career, not with the Cowboys, but had a good career. I still think if he would have played offensive tackle, he could have been one of the best players to ever play, but he didn't want to do that. But I just think you have to let these classes kind of marinate a little bit. And so it's time to see what the 2021, 22, 23, definitely 23. You need to see what 23 can do. And 24 has got to be good. It's got to be good, but I agree with you. There's 5 or 10 players where it's their time. It's going to be their time to shine. They've been kind of chilling in the back here, but now it's time to move forward. It's like a college team. You're not asking all the freshmen to come in and do some stuff. By the time you're a junior, though, senior, you're here, you've been in the program, it's your time to shine. And this is kind of the way it is for these guys here. All right, that'll do it for this show. Went a little over, but you guys kept calling. Great stuff. 13 calls. Got all over the map. Had some more first-time callers, which is great, and had some of the regulars called in. And can't wait to hear who calls in on Thursday. We'll do it all again on Cowboy Storyline. So for Chris Beam, I'm Nick Eatman. We will see you on Thursday. Cowboy Storyline. See ya.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?